The crash landing. Raymond Boyd's heart raced as he crouched in the makeshift shelter he had hastily constructed. The dense foliage of Teleprime loomed around him, a labyrinth of alien vegetation that felt both foreign and hostile. Just hours ago, his escape pod had malfunctioned during atmospheric entry, sending him spiraling into this strange world inhabited by the Tellarites, a race notorious for their fierce territorial instincts, especially during mating season. Little did he know, his crash landing had put him directly in the path of danger. As a seasoned combat veteran of the United Earth Defense Force, Raymond had survived countless missions across hostile territories, but nothing could prepare him for the peculiarities of alien mating customs. The Tellarite females were in their mating season, a time marked by aggression and instinctual hunting behavior towards any males, including unsuspecting human soldiers. The very thought sent chills down his spine. In his mind, he replayed the briefings he had received about the Tellarites' mating rituals. It was a blend of the animalistic and the bizarre. The females would capture and often violently claim suitable males as mates, ensuring their lineage and strengthening their familial ties. Raymond's mind was sharp, fueled by survival instincts honed through years of training. He quickly assessed his dire circumstances. He had to evade capture until he could repair his distress beacon and signal for help. With time ticking away, he set to work building his camouflage shelter, using local flora and debris from the wreckage of his pod. Sweat trickled down his brow as he meticulously arranged branches and leaves to disguise his position. His adrenaline surged as the forest fell silent, punctuated only by the distant rustle of leaves and the occasional call of unknown creatures. As twilight descended over the alien world, the shadows lengthened and the atmosphere grew tense. Raymond's senses sharpened, tuning into the forest's heartbeat. He knew the female Tellarites would be out, their instincts heightened, their senses primed for detecting any intruder. He held his breath, praying that his improvised hideout would hold against their keen senses. Suddenly, a distant sound broke the silence. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate. His heart pounded in his chest, and he instinctively reached for his only weapon, a standard-issue combat knife, which felt painfully inadequate against the strength and ferocity of the Tellarite females. Through the gaps in his shelter, Raymond caught glimpses of movement, a group of 4 Tellarite females weaving through the underbrush. Their leader, a robust Tellarite named Cade, spoke in guttural tones, rallying her companions with fierce enthusiasm. They seemed determined, their eyes darting about, searching for any signs of suitable males. Raymond's pulse quickened as he realized that he was now the hunted, prey in a game he had never signed up for. He closed his eyes for a moment, recalling the training exercises he had completed back on Earth. "Stay calm, stay hidden," he whispered to himself, trying to center his thoughts. But it was difficult. The adrenaline surged through him, making his muscles tense and his breath quicken. The stakes had never been higher. If he were to be discovered, he faced not only humiliation, but the prospect of being forcibly taken as a mate. As the footsteps grew closer, the rustling leaves sounded like a drumbeat of impending doom. Raymond could hear the Tellarites' excited whispers, their keen sense of smell seemingly leading them straight to him. He strained to listen, trying to glean any hints of their intentions. "We'll find him, we always do," Kate growled, confidence lacing her words. His heart sank. It was a matter of time before they would discover his hiding spot. Raymond knew he had to act, and quickly. Summoning every ounce of military training he possessed, he prepared for what was sure to be an inevitable confrontation. With a sudden, instinctive burst of energy, he decided that hiding would only delay the inevitable. He took a deep breath and launched himself from the shelter, sprinting into the dense foliage, hoping to catch the Tellarites off guard. The surprised squeals of the alien girls pierced the stillness of the forest as they spotted him, their instincts kicking in immediately. "Don't let the human escape." Cade's voice echoed behind him, a fierce rallying cry that sent chills racing down his spine. Raymond's training kicked in as he wove through the alien landscape, utilizing every lesson he had learned about terrain navigation. He darted between trees, his heart pounding in rhythm with the pounding of his feet against the ground. Branches whipped at his face, leaving scratches on his skin as he propelled himself forward. For a fleeting moment, he felt an exhilarating sense of freedom, his human agility giving him an edge. But the Tellarites, with their intimate knowledge of the forest, quickly closed the gap. Their guttural voices echoed behind him, fueled by determination and a primal instinct to claim their prize. As he reached a small hill, Raymond's eyes widened at the sight of an abandoned Tellarite outpost nestled among the trees. Without a second thought, he altered his course and sprinted towards it, praying it could provide him with refuge. He reached the door just as Cade and her group burst from the trees, their fierce growls echoing in the air. He slammed the rusty door shut behind him, quickly searching for anything he could use to barricade the entrance. Inside the outpost, the atmosphere was eerie, illuminated by a faint blue glow emanating from strange machinery scattered throughout the room. The unfamiliar surroundings sent a shiver down his spine, but survival was paramount. He worked swiftly, using debris and whatever furniture he could find to barricade the doors and windows. Just as he secured the last entry point, he could hear the Tellarites circling outside, their frustrated growls vibrating through the walls, a haunting reminder of how close they were. As Raymond caught his breath, a faint glimmer of hope sparked in his chest. He noticed a bank of equipment in the corner that resembled a communication array. If he could repair it, he might be able to boost his distress signal and contact the United Earth Defense Force directly. He approached the alien technology, brow furrowing in concentration. The controls were entirely foreign, adorned with symbols he couldn't decipher, pulsing ominously in the dim light. The sound of heavy thuds against the outpost walls startled him, making him jump. Cade's booming voice rang out from outside, taunting him. "We know you're in there, human. You can't hide forever." Panic surged in his chest as he struggled with the machinery. Sweat dripped down his forehead as he desperately tried to make sense of the controls, the pounding on the walls echoing in his ears. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated through the building, sending a tremor through the floor. The Tellarites had breached one of the secondary entrances. With their relentless pursuit closing in, Raymond's heart raced. He was running out of time. He could hear their claws scraping against the metal, their growls growing closer as they methodically checked each room. In a moment of desperation, Raymond's gaze landed on a small vent shaft in the corner. It was a tight fit, but it might lead to an escape route. His fingers trembled as he worked to remove the cover, glancing nervously at the door as the sounds of the Tellarites grew louder. The choice was looming before him: risk crawling through the unknown vent or face the ferocious females head-on. With a deep breath, Raymond's decision solidified. As the door to his room creaked open, he steeled himself for what was to come. He dove towards the vent, squeezing through the narrow opening, just as he heard the Tellarites burst into the room behind him. The cool metal pressed against his skin as he maneuvered through the cramped space, driven by the urgent need to escape. As he crawled through the twisting vents, Raymond's mind raced. The Tellarites were clever and persistent, but he had something they didn't: the advantage of surprise and human ingenuity. Little did he know, his encounter with these alien girls was only beginning, and the challenges ahead would test not only his physical abilities, but also his capacity for adaptability and quick thinking in the face of danger. With each moment, he realized that this experience might not only determine his survival, but also reshape his understanding of what it meant to coexist with an alien species so unlike his own. Would he manage to escape this alien world, or would he find himself entangled in the strange and dangerous customs of the Tellarites? Only time would tell as the hunt continued. The unexpected encounter. Raymond crawled through the cramped vent, the cool metal pressing against his back and shoulders as he navigated the twisting passage. The air was stale and heavy, filled with a faint, metallic scent that sent his senses on high alert. He could still hear the guttural growls of the Tellarite females echoing through the outpost, their impatience palpable as they searched for him. Each crash and thud from behind him sent fresh waves of adrenaline surging through his veins. He knew he had to keep moving. The vent was dark, illuminated only by the occasional flickering light from the machinery in the outpost below. Raymond focused on the sounds of the Tellarites, gauging their movements. They were in the main room now, their voices a cacophony of excitement and frustration as they scoured every inch of the space he had just fled. He must have gone this way. Clade's voice rang out, filled with authority and determination. Don't let him escape. We need him. That last remark sent a chill down his spine. The realization that he was not merely prey, but a desired mate added a layer of urgency to his escape. Raymond had always prided himself on his training and tactical mind, but nothing could have prepared him for this peculiar scenario, where he was both the hunted and an unwilling contestant in a mating ritual. As he crawled deeper into the ventilation system, he could feel his muscles tightening, fatigue creeping in as he pushed himself to maintain speed. He needed a plan, an escape route, and a way to contact his people before it was too late. The faint sounds of the Tellarites searching faded slightly as he pressed on, his mind racing through the options. He had to outsmart them. The vent eventually opened into a larger chamber, the air here fresher and more breathable. Raymond peered down through a grate, holding his breath as he scanned the room below. It appeared to be some kind of central control area filled with alien technology. Various screens flickered with symbols and images that were entirely foreign to him. The room was empty, an opportunity. Carefully, he unclipped the grate and slid down into the chamber, landing softly on the floor. He immediately set to work, assessing the strange devices surrounding him. He had no time to lose. If he could figure out how to operate this equipment, perhaps he could send a distress signal to the United Earth Defense Force and summon help. He approached the main console, its surface sleek and covered in glowing buttons. Raymond ran his fingers over the controls, his mind racing as he recalled some of the technical training he had received. He needed to find something familiar amidst the alien technology. He quickly began pressing buttons, trying to decipher their functions. Suddenly, a series of alarms blared throughout the facility, red lights flashing angrily above him. Intruder alert. A synthesized voice echoed ominously, and his heart sank. He had triggered an alarm. The Tellarites would be on him in seconds. He needed to think quickly. His hands flew across the controls, desperately seeking a way to turn off the alarm or, better yet, use the equipment to send a message. As he scrambled to find a solution, he noticed a panel labeled Communications. With renewed focus, he accessed it, praying for anything that might allow him to transmit a signal. Just as he initiated the sequence, he heard the unmistakable sounds of the Tellarites charging toward the chamber. The clatter of claws against metal floors echoed like a countdown in his ears. Come on, he muttered under his breath, sweat beading on his forehead as he frantically input commands. He felt the floor tremble as the Tellarites burst into the control room, their fierce growls filling the air. Cade was leading the charge, her fierce eyes scanning the space. Find him, she ordered, and Raymond's heart raced as he desperately pushed buttons, hoping to finish the transmission before they could reach him. Just as the Tellarites advanced, a flashing light on the console caught his attention. Distress signal activated, the machine announced. Relief flooded through him, but there was no time to celebrate. He spun around, preparing for a confrontation. Cade and her group stood poised, their bodies tense with primal energy. Raymond instinctively dropped into a defensive stance, gripping his knife tightly, ready to defend himself. He knew that fighting them could be futile, but he wasn't about to let them take him without a struggle. You're a clever one, Cade growled, her eyes narrowing as she took a step forward. But cleverness will not save you from what you were brought here for. Brought here? Raymond echoed, his voice steadier than he felt. I didn't come here willingly. I crashed. I'm not part of your mating rituals. Her lips curled into a smirk. And yet here you are. The universe has a funny way of bringing things together. Behind her, the other Tellarite females moved in closer, forming a semicircle around him. Their muscles rippled beneath their greenish-blue skin, showcasing a blend of raw power and grace. Raymond's mind raced as he took in the scene. If he could stall them, maybe he could find a way to escape or reason with them. "Listen, I'm not your enemy," he began, trying to maintain eye contact with Cade, hoping to appeal to her intellect. "I'm just a pilot. I'm not here to hurt anyone." The Tellarites exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of confusion and curiosity. "You think we care about your motives, human?" Cade challenged, her voice low and dangerous. "We have been waiting for a suitable mate, and you've fallen into our hands." Before Raymond could respond, he felt a surge of energy rush through him. The realization struck him. He needed to assert his own narrative. "If you want a mate, let's talk about it. What if I can offer something different?" Cade tilted her head, intrigued yet wary. "Different? Like what?" "I could help your people," Raymond suggested, his voice steady. "I have skills in technology and combat. I could train your warriors, improve your defenses, and help you expand your territory. In return, you let me leave once it's safe." The other Tellarites murmured among themselves, their expressions shifting as they considered his proposal. Cade's eyes flickered with calculation, her instincts battling against curiosity. "You speak boldly, human, but how can we trust you?" "Because I have no reason to lie," Raymond replied, desperation sharpening his resolve. "You can test me. I'll prove my worth. If I fail, then you can claim me as you see fit." Silence enveloped the room as Cade contemplated his offer. The other Tellarites remained alert, ready to pounce should she give the command. Time hung heavy in the air, each second stretching into eternity as Raymond felt the weight of their stares upon him. Finally, Cade took a step back, the tension in her body easing slightly. "Very well, human. You will have your chance to prove your worth. But know this, should you fail, you will belong to us. We will not be gentle." Raymond nodded, swallowing hard. This was a gamble, but it was the only way to stay alive. "What do you want me to do?" Cade's demeanor shifted, the predatory glint in her eyes replaced by a calculating gaze. "Our tribe needs to expand its territory, and we face threats from other clans. You will help us prepare for battle against our enemies. If you succeed in strengthening our position, we might reconsider your fate." With the stakes set, Raymond steeled himself for the challenge ahead. He had a plan now, a way to survive and potentially escape this nightmare. "I'll do my best," he assured her, ready to embrace this unexpected role as a reluctant strategist for the Tellarites. As the Tellarites began to gather around him, Raymond felt a strange sense of purpose ignite within him. The odds were stacked against him, but he wouldn't go down without a fight. Little did he know, this unexpected alliance would lead him into uncharted territories of both conflict and understanding, testing not only his skills, but also his perceptions of what it meant to connect with beings from another world. With a deep breath, he prepared himself for the days ahead, aware that he would have to navigate the treacherous waters of alien customs, warfare, and perhaps an unusual bond that could change everything. The hunt was no longer just for survival. It had morphed into a complex dance of negotiation and strategy, where every move could mean the difference between life and death. The training begins. Raymond stood at the center of the dimly lit control room, the alien technology surrounding him a mix of intimidating and strangely fascinating. Cade, flanked by a small group of Tellarite females, eyed him with a mixture of suspicion and intrigue, their muscular forms poised and ready. They were not just warriors. They were a culture steeped in rituals and traditions, and he needed to navigate that world carefully if he was to survive. Cade's gaze bore into him, her eyes sharp and unyielding. "You have one chance, human. Impress us with your skills, or you will regret making this offer." Raymond nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle heavily on his shoulders. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. "What exactly do you want me to do?" "First, we must assess your combat abilities. If you are to train our warriors, we need to know how well you fight," she replied, motioning for him to follow. The group moved quickly through the facility, winding through narrow corridors and echoing halls, until they reached a large open arena filled with uneven terrain. The ground was littered with alien vegetation that glowed faintly in the dim light, giving the space an eerie ambience. In one corner, there was an array of weapons, each more bizarre than the last, their designs both functional and beautiful. As they entered the arena, a low murmur swept through the gathered Tellarite warriors, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. They were larger than Raymond, their bodies built for strength and speed, and he couldn't help but feel a flicker of trepidation. "Demonstrate your skills," Kate commanded, her voice echoing off the walls. Raymond stepped forward, scanning the various weapons. He had trained in martial arts and self-defense, but these weapons were unlike anything he had encountered before. He spotted a sleek, curved blade resembling a scimitar, its edge glinting ominously. He picked it up, feeling the weight and balance in his hand, and prepared himself for a demonstration. He moved to the center of the arena, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "All right," he called out, trying to project confidence. "Let's see what you've got." With that, he launched into a series of moves he had practiced countless times. He performed quick footwork, transitioning seamlessly between stances. The blades sliced through the air, each swing fluid and precise. He could feel the energy in the arena shift as the Tellarites watched him intently, some nodding in approval while others exchanged doubtful glances. "Impressive," Kate acknowledged, her tone neutral yet laced with curiosity. "But fighting alone will not suffice. You must teach our warriors the strategies that have kept your kind alive." Raymond took a moment to catch his breath, the weight of her expectations settling on him. "All right, I can do that. We need to focus on teamwork, communication, and tactics." Kate stepped closer, her expression shifting from skepticism to intrigue. "Then show us. We will select the strongest among us to partner with you. You will train together." As the Tellarites lined up to choose their partners, Raymond took a moment to observe them. Each warrior was distinct, their features reflecting their strength and fierce individuality. They moved with an innate grace, their muscles taut and ready for action. One female, taller and broader than the rest, caught his eye. She had striking silver markings across her deep green skin, giving her an almost regal appearance. Cade's voice broke through his thoughts. "Aria will be your partner. She is among our best fighters." Aria stepped forward, her expression confident yet cautious. "I have never trained with a human before. How do we work together?" Raymond considered her question carefully. "First, we need to establish a communication method. We can start with basic movements and signals. Then, we'll incorporate strategies that rely on each other's strengths." The other Tellarite warriors began to gather around, intrigued by the interaction. Kate watched closely, her eyes assessing every detail as Raymond and Aria began their training. As they demonstrated basic movements, Raymond explained the principles of hand signals and body language, emphasizing the importance of understanding one another during combat. Aria followed his lead, her movements sharp and precise, showcasing her natural agility. As they practiced, Raymond couldn't help but feel a growing sense of camaraderie with Aria. She was not just a powerful warrior. She was intelligent and quick to grasp the concepts he introduced. "Let's practice some sparring," he suggested after a few rounds of drills. "It's one thing to train together, but we need to understand how we'll work as a team in a real confrontation." Aria nodded, stepping back to give him space. "I will not hold back, human." "Neither will I," he replied, a determined glint in his eye. As they began to spar, Raymond found himself adapting quickly to Aria's combat style. She was ferocious and fast, her strikes a blur as she tested his defenses. He blocked her blows with a mixture of agility and strategy, gradually finding his rhythm. He focused on evading her strikes, using footwork to create distance and openings. "Good," Aria shouted, exhilarated by the challenge. "You have skill, but you must use your speed more effectively." Raymond pushed himself, recalling the lessons he had learned in various martial arts. He employed feints and quick pivots, dodging her strikes and countering with calculated movements. The arena filled with their movements, blades clashing, feet pounding the ground, and the air charged with intensity. As the sparring continued, the other Tellarites watched intently, their initial skepticism giving way to admiration. Raymond could see them whispering among themselves, sharing observations about his technique and Aria's prowess. Finally, after an exhausting session, they stepped back, panting and smiling. "You are strong for a human," Aria admitted, a hint of respect evident in her tone. "Your training methods are different, but effective." "Thank you," Raymond replied, a sense of pride swelling within him. "And you're an incredible fighter. I'm just trying to keep up with you." Cade stepped forward, her expression inscrutable. "It appears you have won their respect, human. This is only the beginning. Your training must extend beyond physical combat." Raymond raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you have in mind?" "Our tribe must prepare for more than just physical battles," Cade explained. "We need to understand strategy, intelligence, and adaptability. Your people have experience in warfare that we lack. You will teach us." With renewed determination, Raymond nodded. "All right, let's focus on strategy. We can create scenarios to simulate different encounters." For the next few days, they immersed themselves in training. Raymond designed various exercises that combined physical drills with tactical scenarios. He taught them to think critically, to adapt their combat style to various situations, and to work as a cohesive unit. As they trained, the lines between instructor and student began to blur. Raymond found himself learning from the Tellarites just as much as they learned from him. Their unique perspectives on combat and their deep cultural understanding of strength and honor enriched his own knowledge. At the same time, he grew increasingly aware of the relationships forming within the group. Aria emerged as a strong ally, her fierce loyalty complementing his tactical mind. They worked together seamlessly, developing a rhythm that not only enhanced their training, but also deepened their bond. One evening, after a particularly intense session, they gathered around a fire in the arena, the flames flickering and casting dancing shadows on their faces. The atmosphere was relaxed, filled with laughter and stories of past battles. Raymond felt a sense of belonging he had never anticipated. As the night wore on, Cade approached him, her expression thoughtful. "You have brought more than just training to our tribe. You have ignited a spirit within us, a hunger to learn and grow." Raymond smiled, feeling the weight of her words. "Thank you, Cade. I believe in your potential. Together, we can strengthen your tribe and face whatever challenges lie ahead." In the days that followed, their training intensified, and Raymond began to feel a shift within himself. He had come to this alien world as a crash survivor, a victim of circumstances, but now he was becoming a catalyst for change. He was no longer merely an outsider. He was part of something greater, something powerful. But with each passing day, he also felt the weight of the Tellarites' expectations growing. They had entrusted him with their future, and he needed to deliver. As he looked at Aria, Cade, and the warriors around him, he realized that their survival depended on his ability to unite their strengths and forge a path forward. As the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Raymond understood that the fight was far from over. The real challenges lay ahead, and he had to prepare not only himself, but also his new allies for the battles that awaited them. With each passing moment, he embraced his role as a leader, ready to face whatever the universe threw at them next. Little did he know, the training he was imparting would be put to the ultimate test sooner than he expected, and he would have to rely on every ounce of strength, strategy, and trust he had built with the Tellarites to survive the storm that was brewing on the horizon. Shadows of conflict. The dawn of the next day arrived with an air of tension that hung thickly in the atmosphere. Raymond stirred in his quarters, the subtle vibrations of the alien environment beneath him echoing the restlessness he felt within. He had been training hard alongside the Tellarite warriors, but the unease that had begun to creep into their training sessions hinted at a growing uncertainty among them. As the sun broke over the horizon, casting an otherworldly glow through the circular windows of his chamber, he could hear the murmurs of the Tellarites in the distance. They were discussing something important, their voices laced with concern. Dressing quickly, Raymond made his way to the training arena, his heart racing with a mixture of apprehension and determination. Upon arrival, he found the Tellarite warriors gathered in a tight circle, their expressions grave. Cade stood at the center, her formidable presence commanding the attention of all. As Raymond approached, the air seemed to thicken with anticipation, and the murmurs faded into silence. "We have received troubling news," Cade announced, her voice steady but firm. "There have been sightings of the Zephyr, a rival faction that has long sought to dominate our territory. They are ruthless, known for their advanced weaponry and brutal tactics. If they choose to attack, we must be prepared." Raymond's heart sank. The Zephyr had a reputation for mercilessness, their conquests marked by destruction and subjugation. He understood that their arrival could mean the end of everything he had worked so hard to build with the Tellarites. "Have they made any moves towards us?" he asked, stepping into the circle and addressing Cade directly. "Not yet," she replied, her tone measured. "But their scouts are closing in. We believe they are testing our defenses, trying to gauge our strength before they strike." Arya stepped forward, her brows furrowed in concentration. "What is our plan? We cannot wait for them to attack. We need to take the initiative." Raymond nodded in agreement, feeling the weight of their expectations. "I can help you devise a strategy. If we can understand their patterns and movements, we might be able to outsmart them before they engage." The Tellarites murmured among themselves, and Raymond could sense the shift in their demeanor. They were warriors, not afraid of a challenge, but the prospect of facing a powerful enemy was daunting. Cade looked at Raymond, a spark of determination igniting in her eyes. "We will trust your instincts, human. You've shown us that strength comes not just from brute force, but from intelligence and unity. Let us work together." With that, the group began to strategize, the arena buzzing with energy as Raymond outlined a plan to fortify their defenses and gather intelligence on the Zephyr. He utilized his knowledge of military tactics, incorporating elements of guerrilla warfare and deception that he had learned from Earth's conflicts. "First, we need scouts to monitor the perimeter," he explained, drawing diagrams in the dirt with a stick. "We can set up traps and decoys to mislead them. Arya, your strength will be essential in leading our warriors during these operations." She nodded, her confidence returning as she stepped into the role. "I will ensure our scouts are prepared and equipped. We will move swiftly and silently." As the group split off to prepare for the day's tasks, Raymond felt a swell of pride. He had not only found a purpose on this alien world, but had also forged a bond with the Tellarites, a connection that transcended their cultural differences. Days passed, each one filled with training and preparation. The Tellarite warriors became adept at integrating Raymond's strategies into their combat style, and as they trained, a sense of camaraderie blossomed among them. Raymond often sparred with Arya, their movements becoming more synchronized as they learned to anticipate each other's strengths and weaknesses. Yet, as the sun set each night, the specter of the Zephyr loomed large. The tension in the camp was palpable, their resolve hardening with every passing hour. They would share meals, telling stories of past battles and victories, but the underlying current of fear was undeniable. One evening, while sitting around a fire, Raymond noticed Arya gazing into the flames, her expression thoughtful. He approached her, sitting down beside her. "What's on your mind?" She sighed, her eyes flickering with the firelight. "I have fought many battles, but this feels different. The Zephyr are not just another enemy. They represent everything we have fought against for generations. I fear for my people." Raymond understood the weight of her words. "We'll do everything we can to protect each other. We've trained hard, and we're ready for whatever they throw at us. It's not just about brute strength, it's about strategy and unity." Arya turned to him, her expression softening. "You have brought hope to our tribe, human. I did not expect to form such a bond with you, but you have proven to be a worthy ally." The sincerity in her voice resonated with Raymond. "And you've taught me about resilience and strength. I wouldn't want to face this without you by my side." Their gaze lingered, a shared understanding passing between them. In that moment, the fear of the impending battle seemed to dissipate, replaced by a mutual determination to stand together. But as dawn broke the next day, the atmosphere shifted. Scouts returned with alarming reports. The Zephyr were advancing, their numbers overwhelming. The time for preparation was over. They were approaching fast, and it was clear that an attack was imminent. Cade summoned the warriors to a gathering, and the tension in the air was electric. As Raymond stood among them, he felt the weight of leadership on his shoulders. "Listen," Cade said, her voice resonating through the crowd. "We stand at the precipice of battle. The Zephyr are not just here to conquer. They seek to extinguish our spirit. We will not allow this." Raymond stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We have trained for this moment. Remember the strategies we discussed. We will use our knowledge to our advantage. Let's set up defensive positions around the camp and prepare for their assault." The Tellarites nodded, their resolve hardening. They were ready to fight, but the underlying fear was still present. As the warriors dispersed to take their positions, Raymond caught Aria's eye one last time before they separated. "Stay safe out there," he said, his voice low and filled with concern. "Always," she replied, a fierce determination flickering in her eyes. Hours passed, and the sun hung high in the sky, casting long shadows over the landscape. The camp was buzzing with energy as the Tellarite warriors prepared for the incoming battle. They moved in unison, gathering weapons and reinforcing defenses, their spirits unyielding despite the threat looming on the horizon. Raymond positioned himself alongside Cade and Aria at the forefront of the camp. They surveyed the area, spotting the distant silhouettes of the Zephyr warriors moving steadily closer, their banners fluttering menacingly in the wind. The air was charged with anticipation, every warrior acutely aware that this moment could define their future. "They are more numerous than we anticipated," Cade murmured, her brow furrowed as she adjusted the grip on her weapon. Raymond nodded, feeling the weight of the situation pressing on him. "But we have the advantage of terrain and strategy. If we can draw them into the narrow passages of the mountains, we can use our agility to outmaneuver them." As they prepared, Raymond felt a sense of calm wash over him. He had transformed from a survivor to a leader, and in that transformation, he had forged a powerful alliance. The Tellarites stood beside him, ready to defend their home, their hearts steeled for battle. Suddenly, a horn blared in the distance, cutting through the tension like a knife. The Zephyr had arrived. The Tellarites took their positions, forming a solid line as the enemy advanced, their movements synchronized like a well-oiled machine. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the Zephyr surged forward, a wave of ruthless determination. "Remember your training," Raymond shouted, his voice echoing across the battlefield. "Hold the line. Trust in each other." As the Zephyr closed in, a chaotic cacophony erupted. The sounds of clashing metal, battle cries, and the thundering of feet filled the air. Raymond fought alongside Aria and Cade, their movements a symphony of strategy and instinct. They dodged and parried, countering the enemy's strikes with precision. But the sheer number of Zephyr warriors was overwhelming. They pressed forward relentlessly, determined to break the Tellarite defenses. The battle raged on, a whirlwind of chaos and violence, as the two factions clashed with a fury that shook the very ground beneath them. In the midst of the battle, Raymond's instincts kicked in. He moved swiftly, weaving through the chaos, his focus on protecting his allies. He spotted a group of Zephyr warriors attempting to flank Aria, who was holding her ground against multiple attackers. "Aria," he shouted, sprinting towards her. She glanced over, a fierce determination in her eyes. "I can handle them." But Raymond could see the fatigue beginning to weigh on her. With a swift motion, he intercepted one of the Zephyr warriors charging toward her, engaging in a quick but brutal exchange. He felt the adrenaline surging through him, a powerful reminder of the bond they had forged. "Stay close," he urged, pushing back against their attackers. As they fought side by side, Raymond's thoughts raced. He had to find a way to turn the tide. Glancing around, he realized the Tellarites were beginning to falter, their numbers dwindling against the relentless assault. With newfound resolve, he called out, "Everyone, we need to regroup and fall back to the higher ground." Cade's voice boomed across the battlefield. "Fall back, to the cliffs." The Tellarites responded instinctively, retreating to a more defensible position. As they climbed higher, the Zephyr pressed on, their arrogance blinding them to the trap being set. Once at the cliffs, the Tellarites formed a solid line, using the terrain to their advantage. From their elevated position, they could rain down attacks upon the advancing Zephyr, who were now vulnerable in their pursuit. "Now, strike," Raymond shouted, unleashing a coordinated counterattack. The Tellarite warriors responded, launching projectiles and arrows down upon the Zephyr. The tide of battle began to shift as the Zephyr realized too late the danger they had walked into. "Keep pushing them back," Iria shouted, rallying her fellow warriors. "We can win this." Raymond felt a surge of pride at her words. They were fighting not just for survival, but for their unity, their home. He watched as the Tellarites fought with renewed vigor, their spirit ignited by the prospect of victory. But just as the momentum seemed to swing in their favor, a chilling roar erupted from the distance. A massive Zephyr warship descended from the clouds, its dark silhouette casting a shadow over the battlefield. The Zephyr had brought reinforcements, and the Tellarites' moment of triumph was threatened. "Everyone, brace yourselves," Cade ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We must hold our ground." Raymond's heart raced as he prepared for the impending onslaught. The Zephyr warriors regrouped, their eyes blazing with fury as they launched a counteroffensive against the Tellarites. The battle was far from over, and they would need every ounce of strength and unity to survive this challenge. As the warship's engines roared, the skies darkened, and the Tellarite warriors stood firm, ready to defend their home against the overwhelming tide of the Zephyr. Together, they would face whatever came next, bound by their shared purpose and the unbreakable bonds they had forged. The battle had only just begun, and Raymond knew that their struggle would test the limits of their strength and resilience. But as long as they stood united, they had a fighting chance. The turning point. The battlefield had transformed into a chaotic tempest, a brutal clash of wills as the Tellarite warriors stood resolute against the incoming tide of Zephyr reinforcements. The once distant warship now loomed overhead, casting a dark shadow over the blood-soaked ground, and the air crackled with tension as both sides prepared for confrontation that would determine their fates. Raymond found himself at the heart of the storm, his instincts guiding him as he rallied the Tellarite warriors. With the Zephyr warship hovering ominously, he knew the time for indecision had passed. "We need to focus our efforts on the ship," he shouted, his voice cutting through the din of battle. "If we can disable it, we can disrupt their coordination and demoralize their forces." Cade stepped forward, her fierce eyes scanning the horizon. "But how do we reach it? They'll bombard us with fire from above if we try." Raymond glanced at the towering cliffs that bordered their position. "We need to climb higher. We can use the terrain to our advantage and find a way to strike the ship from above." Arya, standing strong beside him, nodded. "I'll gather the strongest of our warriors. We can make our way up the cliffs and launch a surprise attack." The urgency in their voices fueled the determination of those around them. As they began to mobilize, Raymond felt a renewed sense of hope. This battle was not just a test of strength but of strategy, and they had the opportunity to turn the tide in their favor. The Tellarite warriors quickly regrouped, moving toward the cliffs, while the Zephyr began to advance once more. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and sweat, and the sounds of clashing metal echoed as the warriors clambered up the rocky outcrop. Raymond took a moment to catch his breath, his heart pounding in rhythm with the chaos around him. Once atop the cliff, they had a commanding view of the battlefield below. The Zephyr forces were numerous, but their formation was beginning to falter as the Tellarites regrouped. Raymond took a moment to strategize. "We'll create a distraction," he said, pointing toward a cluster of Zephyr soldiers. "Area, can you and your warriors create a diversion? Draw their attention to the left while we flank them from the right." Aria's eyes sparkled with determination. "Leave it to us. We'll make sure they're occupied." With a plan in place, they split into two groups. Aria led her warriors to the left, their shouts and battle cries reverberating through the air. As they engaged, Raymond could see the Zephyr troops shift their focus, drawn to the chaos Aria was creating. Now was their moment. "Move," he urged his group as they descended from the cliffs, positioning themselves for a surprise attack. They stealthily approached the rear of the Zephyr formation, their hearts racing as they prepared to strike. As they charged, the Tellarite warriors erupted with a fierce battle cry, catching the Zephyr completely off guard. The confusion was palpable as Raymond and his companions unleashed a barrage of strikes, cutting through the disorganized ranks of the enemy. It was a moment of exhilaration, the adrenaline surging through him as they fought as one cohesive unit. But even amidst the chaos, the looming threat of the warship remained. From its position high above, the ship began to fire down upon them, beams of energy slicing through the air with deadly precision. "Take cover," Raymond shouted, but the panic was already spreading as the Zephyr retaliated fiercely. A beam struck near Raymond, sending him sprawling to the ground. As he regained his footing, he scanned the battlefield, horrified to see some of his warriors falling under the assault. "We need to neutralize that ship," he yelled to Cade, who was rallying her warriors to push back against the encroaching Zephyr. Cade's eyes narrowed as she surveyed the scene. "We'll need explosives. There's a cache hidden near the cliffs. If we can reach it, we might have a chance." "Then let's move," Raymond urged, his heart racing as they dashed back toward the cliffs. The energy beams continued to rain down around them, and the sounds of battle intensified. As they navigated the rocky terrain, Raymond's mind raced. The cache was a gamble, but it was their only chance to disrupt the Zephyr's advantage. They reached the hidden cache, and Raymond quickly began to assess its contents. The explosives were crude but powerful, their effectiveness depended on their placement. "Load these up," he called out, distributing the explosives among the warriors. "We'll need to climb higher to get a better angle on that ship." With their weapons in hand, the group scrambled up the cliffs once more, positioning themselves strategically to launch their attack. As they prepared, Raymond could feel the weight of their mission pressing down on him. The fate of the Tellarites and his own survival hung in the balance. From their vantage point, they could see the Zephyr forces, a chaotic sea of warriors struggling against the Tellarite resistance. But the warship loomed overhead, a constant reminder of the impending danger. "We need to act fast," Raymond urged, his heart racing. With a nod from Cade, they ignited the explosives and began to set them in a strategic pattern. The ship remained focused on the ground battle, unaware of the impending threat. As they worked, Raymond felt a surge of hope. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their very existence, for their home, for each other. As they completed their preparations, the air crackled with tension. "Ready?" Aria asked, her expression fierce and unwavering. "On my mark," Raymond replied, steeling himself for the moment that could change everything. With a deep breath, he raised his hand. Now, they unleashed a torrent of explosives toward the warship. The detonations echoed across the battlefield, bright flashes illuminating the sky as the projectiles struck true. The warship shuddered under the impact, its energy beams flickering as the crew scrambled to assess the damage. The Zephyr forces faltered, their attention diverted by the chaos above. In that instant, the Tellarites seized the opportunity, charging forward with renewed vigor. Aria led the charge, her warriors rallying behind her, their spirits ignited by the chance to reclaim their homeland. Raymond fought alongside them, a whirlwind of movement and determination. They pressed forward, breaking through the ranks of the Zephyr with fierce resolve. He could see the tide turning, their unity proving stronger than the Zephyr's numbers. But the battle was far from over. The warship began to stabilize, its engines roaring back to life as it retaliated with renewed fury. Energy beams swept across the battlefield, targeting the advancing Tellarites. Raymond shouted for his comrades to scatter, but the chaos of battle made communication nearly impossible. He spotted Cade and Aria struggling against a group of Zephyr soldiers and charged toward them, determination coursing through his veins. "I've got your back," he called out, launching himself into the fray. As they fought, Raymond felt the strength of their bond. They were more than allies. They were a family, united against a common enemy. But the warship's firepower was relentless, and the toll of the battle began to weigh heavily on the Tellarite forces. "Get to the cliffs," Cade shouted, her voice hoarse from the exertion. "We need to regroup." With a fierce nod, Raymond led the charge back toward the cliffs, rallying their warriors to follow. As they ascended, they caught sight of the Zephyr regrouping, their numbers dwindling but their resolve unyielding. Once atop the cliffs, they caught their breath and assessed the situation. The warship was still hovering, its energy beams slicing through the air, but now the Tellarites had the high ground. "We need to take that ship down once and for all," Raymond said, scanning the battlefield for any remaining explosives. "There's a larger cache hidden deeper in the cliffs," Cade replied, her eyes narrowing with determination. "If we can get to it, we can create a diversion that will take out their ship." Raymond nodded, understanding the gravity of their mission. "Let's move. We can't let this opportunity slip away." As they descended the cliffs, they were met with the onslaught of Zephyr troops, their eyes filled with anger and desperation. The Tellarites fought valiantly, but Raymond could see the toll of the battle weighing on them. "Push through," he shouted, drawing upon every ounce of strength he had. Finally, they reached the hidden cache, a small alcove tucked away from the battlefield's chaos. Inside lay an arsenal of explosives, far more potent than the previous cache. "This is it," he exclaimed, his heart racing. "We can turn the tide with this." Cade and Aria quickly began assembling the explosives, while Raymond kept an eye on the battle outside. The Zephyr forces were beginning to rally, and their warship was still hovering ominously above. "We don't have much time," he urged. Once the explosives were ready, Raymond gathered the warriors around him, determination burning in their eyes. "This is our chance to take the fight to them. We're going to make a final stand." As they set out, the energy beams from the warship began to rain down once more, but this time they were ready. The Tellarite warriors charged forward, their spirits ignited by the knowledge that this battle would define their future. "Onward," Aria shouted, her voice ringing clear above the chaos. With a fierce roar, the Tellarite warriors surged into battle, united in their purpose. They fought with renewed vigor, the fire of hope burning bright as they pressed forward. The Zephyr forces struggled against the tide, their arrogance now wavering in the face of the Tellarites' determination. As they neared the warship, Raymond's heart raced. This was it, the moment that could change everything. With the explosives primed, they launched their final assault, unleashing a barrage of attacks against the ship. The air was thick with the scent of gunpowder and the sounds of clashing metal, but through the chaos, Raymond felt an unyielding strength within him. They were fighting not just for survival, but for their unity, their home, and their future. As the warship began to falter, the Zephyr forces broke, their morale shattered by the unexpected turn of events. The Tellarites surged forward, their battle cries echoing through the air as they pressed the advantage. Victory was within their grasp, and Raymond knew they would stop at nothing to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. With unwavering resolve, they fought on, united against the tide of darkness, ready to seize their destiny. The battle raged on, and the outcome was yet to be determined, but one thing was clear. The Tellarites would fight for their future, no matter the cost. The crucible of destiny. The battlefield transformed into a living tapestry of chaos and courage. As the Tellarite warriors surged forward, their cries resonated through the air, mingling with the crackle of energy beams from the warship above. The Zephyr troops faltered, their once assured formation now crumbling under the relentless onslaught of the Tellarites, who fought with the desperation and fervor born of hope and unity. Raymond's heart raced as he fought alongside his comrades, the weight of the moment pressing upon him. Each swing of his weapon felt like a blow against oppression itself, a fight not just for survival, but for the future of his people. He could see the determination in the eyes of his fellow warriors, each one embodying the spirit of defiance. They were not merely fighting to repel an invasion. They were reclaiming their identity, their right to exist free from tyranny. The warship above shifted its focus, its energy beams illuminating the darkness with flashes of bright blue and white as it attempted to regain control. The Tellarite warriors, however, were relentless. Arya fought fiercely beside Raymond, her strikes precise and devastating. "Keep pushing. We have to reach that ship," she shouted, her voice a beacon of encouragement amidst the turmoil. As they fought, Raymond spotted a group of Zephyr soldiers forming a defensive perimeter around the ship's landing gear. If they could reach that position, they might be able to plant their explosives and deliver a decisive blow. "To the landing gear," he yelled, rallying his comrades. "We break through there, and we can bring that ship down." With a roar of agreement, the Tellarite warriors regrouped, charging forward in a concerted effort to breach the enemy's defenses. The clash of steel against steel echoed around them, the air thick with smoke and the cries of the fallen. It was a brutal melee, but the Tellarites fought with a fierceness that pushed them forward, inch by inch, driven by their shared purpose. Amidst the chaos, the warship's energy beams continued to rain down, striking the ground with explosive force. Raymond narrowly dodged a blast, feeling the heat of it singe his skin as he ducked behind a crumbling rock formation. Arya was not far behind, her expression fierce as she rejoined him. "We can't let them regroup," she urged, determination blazing in her eyes. "We must keep the pressure on." Together, they led a small contingent of warriors toward the landing gear. The Zephyr soldiers were struggling to maintain their formation, their resolve wavering as the Tellarites pressed their advantage. With each step closer to the ship, the stakes escalated. Raymond could feel the adrenaline coursing through him, heightening his senses as he prepared for the fight of their lives. As they approached the landing gear, a powerful blast erupted from the warship, sending shockwaves through the air. Raymond stumbled but quickly regained his footing. The explosion had sent several Tellarite warriors sprawling, but he could see Arya still standing, urging the others forward. "Now," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. The Tellarites surged forward, reaching the landing gear just as the Zephyr forces began to recover. Raymond reached into his pack, pulling out the explosives. "Cover me," he yelled to his comrades, who instantly formed a protective circle around him. As he worked, the sounds of battle surrounded him, the clash of swords, the cries of the wounded, and the unyielding roar of the warship. Time seemed to slow as he fought against the rising tide of panic. He could feel the weight of their mission resting on his shoulders, a burden that fueled his determination. With shaking hands, he secured the explosives, glancing up to see Arya and Cade fending off the encroaching Zephyr soldiers. "We need more time," Cade shouted, her voice strained as she struck down another opponent. "I'm almost done," Raymond called back, his heart racing. The last few seconds felt like an eternity, but finally he managed to secure the last charge. "It's ready," he shouted, adrenaline surging as he took a step back. "Detonate it when we're clear." Arya nodded, her gaze fixed on the approaching Zephyr reinforcements. "Fall back," she commanded, and the Tellarite warriors began to retreat, fighting fiercely as they drew away from the landing gear. As they pulled back, Raymond could feel a tension in the air. The Zephyr forces pressed forward, desperate to regain control of the ship, but the Tellarites were unwavering, pushing against them with every ounce of strength they had. "Now," Raymond shouted, signaling Area to ignite the explosives. She quickly lit the fuse and tossed it back toward the landing gear. For a brief moment, time seemed to freeze. The battlefield held its breath as everyone turned to watch the landing gear. Then, with a deafening roar, the explosives detonated, sending a massive shockwave through the air. The warship shuddered violently, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Flames erupted from the landing gear, engulfing the surrounding area in a bright orange glow. Raymond felt a rush of exhilaration and fear as he watched the warship begin to tilt. "It's working," he shouted, a surge of hope flooding through him. But the victory was fleeting. The Zephyr troops, momentarily stunned by the explosion, quickly rallied and turned their focus back toward the Tellarate warriors, their anger palpable. "We need to regroup," Cade urged, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We can't let them take advantage of this." As they retreated to a nearby ridge, Raymond could feel the tide shifting once more. The Tellarates were fighting valiantly, but the Zephyr numbers were still overwhelming. The warship, though damaged, had not yet fallen, and the battle was far from over. "We need a new plan," Raymond said, breathless and battered as they caught their breath. "If we don't take that ship down, we'll never defeat them." Cade nodded, her eyes scanning the battlefield. "We need to find a way to disable its weapon systems. If we can do that, we can buy ourselves time to regroup and strategize." Raymond glanced at Area, who was watching him intently. "How do we get close enough without getting killed?" Area considered this for a moment, her brow furrowing in thought. "If we can create a diversion, we might be able to slip through the lines. Perhaps a feigned retreat could draw them in. Or a distraction from the cliffside," Raymond added, the wheels of strategy turning in his mind. "If we can get a small group up there, we can rain down fire upon them, while the rest of us creates the illusion of retreat." "Let's do it," Area said, her resolve hardening. "But we'll need to move quickly. Every moment we waste gives them the chance to regroup." With a plan set, Raymond quickly gathered a small team of willing warriors. Area and Cade remained behind to organize the rest, ensuring they were ready to execute the feigned retreat. The air crackled with tension as the Tellarates prepared for their next move. As they made their way to the cliffs, Raymond's mind raced with possibilities. This was more than just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the future of their people. The weight of their struggle hung heavy in the air, and every decision they made would ripple through the fabric of their existence. Once they reached the cliff's edge, Raymond could see the warship still hovering, its energy beams darting toward the Tellarate warriors below. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the task ahead. "We need to focus our fire on the ship's weapon systems. If we can disable them, it'll give our people the advantage they need." With grim determination, the group readied their weapons, preparing to unleash a torrent of fire upon the warship. As they took aim, the sound of battle raged beneath them, a cacophony of conflict that reverberated through the air. Raymond looked at his comrades, seeing the determination etched on their faces. "On my count," he said, raising his hand. 3, 2, 1. Fire. The air erupted with energy as they unleashed their barrage upon the warship, beams of light arcing toward their target. Each shot felt like a declaration of defiance, a message to the Zephyr that they would not be subdued. As the energy beams struck the warship, it trembled, the sound of metal screeching echoing across the battlefield. "It's working," one of the warriors shouted, and Raymond felt a surge of hope. But the Zephyr troops, realizing the threat, began to retaliate. Energy beams shot up toward the cliffs, and Raymond shouted for everyone to take cover. The ground shook as blasts erupted around them, sending debris flying. "Stay focused," he yelled, pushing through the chaos. "We can't give up now." As the Tellarate warriors continued to fire upon the ship, they could see the damage beginning to take its toll. The energy beams from the warship faltered, its once constant barrage dwindling as it struggled to regain control. "Keep firing," Area urged, her voice rising above the din of battle. "We're almost there." Raymond's heart raced as he fought alongside his comrades, each moment feeling like a battle against time itself. The warship was weakening, and the Tellarate forces below were beginning to rally. But as they pressed their advantage, a new wave of Zephyr reinforcements appeared, pushing back against the Tellarates. The ground beneath them trembled as the battle raged on, the clash of steel and the roar of energy beams painting a grim picture of desperation and resolve. "Raymond," Kate shouted, urgency in her voice. "We need to fall back. We can't hold this position." "Not yet," Raymond insisted, feeling the adrenaline coursing through him. "We're so close." But as the Zephyr forces closed in, he could see the truth in Cade's eyes. They had pushed as far as they could, and to stay would be to risk everything. "All right," he relented, "let's pull back and regroup." The Tellarate warriors began to retreat, scrambling down the cliffside as the Zephyr forces advanced. The fight was far from over, but Raymond felt the ember of hope still burning within him. They had taken a step forward, and with each small victory, they were reclaiming their future. As they descended, Raymond's thoughts turned to the warship. They had damaged it, yes, but it was still a formidable force, and they would need to find a way to bring it down once and for all. As they reached a safe distance, Raymond and the others regrouped with Arya and Cade. The air was thick with tension as they assessed their next move. "All right," Arya began, determination etched on her face. "We've made progress, but we can't let up. We need a plan to finish what we started." Raymond nodded, the flicker of determination igniting once more. "We've proven we can damage the ship, but we need to hit its core if we want to take it down completely. We'll need a distraction to get close." Kate spoke up, her voice steady. "What if we use the explosives we have left? If we can create a diversion at the front lines, we can slip past and plant them directly on the warship." "That could work," Raymond agreed, his mind racing with possibilities. "But it'll be risky. We'll need to be fast and coordinated." Arya stepped forward, her gaze resolute. "We'll do whatever it takes. For our future." With the plan taking shape, the Tellarate warriors began to gather, preparing for one last push against their oppressors. The air buzzed with anticipation, a sense of purpose uniting them as they prepared for the challenge ahead. Raymond felt a surge of adrenaline, the weight of their struggle propelling him forward. They had fought bravely, and now they stood on the brink of something greater, a chance to reclaim their home, their identity, and their destiny. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow across the battlefield, Raymond knew that this would be a night to remember, a night where they would fight for their future, no matter the cost.